Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming here tonight. On the anniversary, the 5th anniversary of Congressman John Lewis's passing, we're here today to honor his legacy of courage, of fighting for justice. We're here today because of the unwavering belief that ordinary people, united in purpose, can make a difference. And our fight continues, as we all know. We're here because our own representative, Rob Bresnahan, who refuses to face us at an in-person town hall, recently voted to gut Medicaid, to gut SNAP. He voted for the largest transfer of wealth that we have ever seen in our nation, from poor to rich. And again, he refuses to face us and justify that vote and answer questions about that vote. He continues to break campaign promises, like his prolific stock trading, even though he promised that he would end congressional stock trading if elected. So tonight, we brought the questions, even though our representative isn't bringing the answers. We have a panel of experts here who are going to answer any questions that we have about what's happening from our state government to what's happening with ICE, to really anything at all that you want to ask about. And if somebody here isn't qualified to answer, then we have a computer and we can Google the answers. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you to our brilliant panel of experts, to all of our volunteers, to every organization who came out today to offer community resources on fighting ICE and register to vote. We couldn't do this without community, so thank you all. I also want to give a special thank you to the Wilkes College Dems. Today is our first ever Young Dems by College Dems collab. Johnny and Jace literally made tonight happen. Thank you both so much for helping reserve this awesome room and for getting the professors to be a part of this panel. Thank you to everybody who's here tonight, who's here to stand up for their community and their neighbors and for what's right, and to fight against fascism like that cautionary tale that we just watched. I do want to give one quick shout out before I pass the mic off to John Palumbo. To organize in WilkesBarre in Luzerne County is to know and love John Palumbo. John is moving to Denver next month, and we would be remiss if we didn't say we love you, John, and we will not miss you. We're so happy you're leaving. Thank you. Now, I just want to pass the mic off to Dwayne Heisler, and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right, with the Pennsylvania Policy Center and State Committee person for Lackawanna County. Dwayne recently had success in getting a no vote on the BBB.
Can we have a hand for Megan, please? So I wear a few hats. Some of you have probably seen me around now and then. You may have seen my companion, which is a giant, like 10, 12-foot orange cat. The fat cat, that's Mr. Riggs. He lives rent-free in Scranton. And I try to get him out to earn his keep as much as possible. But I'm here really, I heard all the thank yous from Megan, but really to thank all of you. You know, it's all the organizing work, your willingness to stand up and speak out that really changed all of this. And it really did, because if it was up to Trump and the MAGA folks, they were gonna push this bill through in January. And that didn't happen, and it didn't happen because of all of your work. And I know that firsthand, because we did work across the entire state and along with partners on a national level through the Pennsylvania Policy Center and through Pennsylvanians Together. But Megan kind of was pointing out that, you know, out of the whole country, there were 2 votes against the bill when it got back to the House. One of them was from Pennsylvania, but let me just say, he was the only one that voted against it because of how bad it was. The other one wanted to make it worse, right? But it's true, he wanted the cuts to go deeper. But we put so much pressure, just like we did on Congressman Bresnahan, on Brian Fitzpatrick, put so much pressure on him. It was unbelievable. I worked with 2 indivisible groups there. We were really kicking it out there. I mean, I even brought Fair Share America, their bus, to Brian Fitzpatrick's parking lot, and we had hundreds of people show up and protest there. So there was a lot of pressure on him. But let me also say that it's really kind of easier to vote against your party when you know it's going to pass anyway. So if you talk to the people on the ground, they are still not happy with him because he could have stopped it the first time, right? And of course, some of the other things where he votes right alongside of all of this. So I just wanted to thank you and to let you know that your voices really do make a difference. I have seen it firsthand. When we met with Bresnahan, where we were talking with him when he first took office, we had the first kind of community conversation town hall, and I wasn't getting an answer from him about whether he was going to show up or not. I found out the names of his organizers. I had their cell phones. I went a little crazy. I was phoning and texting and calling and talking with his staff, and all along telling them we're doing it at the UFCW right near Pittston. You ran this campaign on unions. You talked about saving our economy, right? And all of this work. And now I'm not getting an answer from you. And then when I got a quote from Fetterman showing support, which he has done all along for SNAP and for Medicaid, just to be clear on that. There's other issues with him, but just to be clear on that, right? I finally got two of their organizers in their car, on the speaker in the car, and I said, look, we have it sold out. We have so many people there. Press will be there. I have a quote from Fetterman. Here's what he said. Are you going to let me quote? Are you going to let me talk to the press, or do you want to do it? Are you going to show up? Are you going to have staff? And can I have that quote? Within 1 hour, they had a staff member there, and I got a quote. And that quote said that he was going to be supporting Medicaid and SNAP. So back on January 6th, that's another day, January 9th. January 6th, we actually had that quote from him, that early. And all along, he was making those statements. So I want to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you. Your work matters. Continue the good work. And I'm going to pass the mic now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. I'm passing the mic right off to Johnny Sudal, our MC for the night. Johnny is the vice president of the Wilkes College Dems, and Jace Heineck, the president of the Wilkes College Dems, is going to take this microphone. Anyone who has any questions for anybody on our panel, just raise your hand. He'll get the mic to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Johnny Sudal. I'm the VP of the Campus Dems. We're really happy to have you all. Believe it or not, this is the biggest turnout we've had for a Campus Dem event, so congrats to you guys. Can you hear me? All right. Megan, before we started, told me to speak quickly on youth, young Democrats and getting younger people involved, but believe me, you guys don't want me to do that can of worms because I could go on for the entire length of tonight's event. So what I have to say on that matter would just be my generation and people of my age and my age group, we're entering the world of politics at a time where it's especially partisan and polarizing. And I know you take that with a grain of salt as I'm a partisan-affiliated club person, but I just want to let you know that we're self-aware. We're in an extremely polarized environment, and in times like that, it's easy to kind of forget blue versus red, Democrat versus Republican, and we forget about our political attitudes and how we feel. So I can't speak on behalf of Democrats altogether, but as far as our club is concerned, we just want to let you know that progressive politics is back. It's here in NEPA, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to introduce the panel in a moment. Before that, like Megan said, I just want to let you all know that Jace Heineck right here, the president of the Campus Democrats, is going to be going around the audience. So once the panel starts and the Q&A begins, raise your hand, and he'll come to you with the mic so that you can ask the panel that question. Is that good? Awesome. All right, so I'll go down the line. We have Wilkes professor right here, and she's going to introduce herself in a moment too. This is Dr. Chelsea Chamberlain. She's a historian here with us. Everyone say hi. Up next, we have another Wilkes professor. This is Dr. Helen Davis. Everyone say hi. Up next, we're lucky enough to have Representative Tara Probst here with us. Everyone say hi. And last but certainly not least, we have our very own Representative Eddie Day Pashinski. And then I'm going to open it up, starting with Dr. Chamberlain. She's going to give a brief bio about herself, her expertise, and then what questions you may have, what questions to direct to her. And then we'll go down the line from there. Once that's concluded, Jace will have the mic, and then questions can begin. All right.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Dr. Chelsea Chamberlain. If you ever decide to direct a question at me, you can call me Chelsea. You don't have to call me Dr. Chamberlain. I am the modern U.S. historian here at Wilkes. So I tend to focus on stuff that happened after the Civil War. I especially focus on the history of medicine. So RFK has been making a lot of that history relevant in terms of well, if he doesn't believe that germ theory exists, we should probably know what germ theory is and when it became established as fact. I do the history of disability, particularly intellectual disability and education in the 1900s. How have we treated people who were identified as disabled, and what has that meant for their lives? And I also do the history of citizenship, mostly in terms of disability, but also thinking more theoretically about what does it mean to be a citizen in the United States, and how does that depend on identity and context, and what does citizenship mean as something formal versus something that is real and that a person experiences in their daily life from the people around them. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Helen Davis, and yes, please, Helen is fine if you're asking questions, absolutely. I'm an English professor here, and I teach with our Women's and Gender Studies program. I do also a lot of work with diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus, so I'm happy to answer questions related to DEI concerns and issues, the LGBTQ+ community. I do our education and advocacy work for that. Also, rhetoric, media literacy, the importance of free press, all those kinds of related subjects I'm happy to answer questions about. And I think we can all talk generally about some of the specifics. I've also have a college student myself, so I've looked pretty closely at the big, beautiful bills cuts to education. So if you have questions about that, I can try to answer some of those questions as well.
Good evening, and thank you for having me at Wilkes University. Truth be told, I lived in Wilkes-Barre for 22 years because I went to college at King's. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. King's guy. But no, I was born and raised in East Stroudsburg. I went to King's College. I lived up here for 22 years, and I moved back to the Poconos, my hometown, in 2010. But Wilkes-Barre has such a special place in my heart. I spent 22 years here. The reason, and by the way, my district is the Poconos. It's the 189th. So I start right when you come in from New Jersey into Delaware Water Gap, all the way on the eastern part of Monroe County into southern Pike County. And I can tell you that we are interconnected with the Northeast. I mean, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, the Poconos, what affects you affects me. We know that my district has the largest or longest commutes in the nation because people have to leave this area to put food on the table for their families. I could go on, but I'm proud to be the state rep. I was the first female mayor in Stroudsburg in over a 200-year history prior to, thank you, thanks. And what I really want to talk about is because I see a mixture of students in here and parents and maybe even some grandparents. Being a first-generation kid that graduated from college, my mom had an 11th grade education, my grandmother had a 7th grade education, and my Aunt Barb went back and got her GED in her 40s. So my brothers and I, 3 older brothers, were lucky enough to be raised with lots of love, but no money. We had to move 11 times in 16 years, and luckily she always kept us in the borough of East Stroudsburg, so we had sidewalks to be able to get to sports and do the things we needed to do. So a couple months ago, I was at an event with the milk carton missing Rob Bresnahan, and we're in front of all these kids, and he gets up there and he said, well, you know, my grandmother said, all you got to do is go to Drexel and I'll give you the business. And I'm like, okay, first of all, half of the kids around here are probably divorced, probably they need loans, probably they have bad situations at home. Like, you're not in reality, Rob. This is not reality. And people that are in this high school have many issues. And one of them isn't well, I guess I got to go to Drexel so I can own a business. I mean, it's just so far out of touch that it really hit me then and there at East Stroudsburg High School that he's not relevant. He doesn't understand what cuttings. Oh, there you go. He doesn't He doesn't understand cuts to Medicaid. He doesn't understand cuts to government student loans so that poor kids and even middle-class kids won't be able to go to law school or to medical school or go for engineering because they're going to be cut off at $100,000. And then they're supposed to take a private loan, which if you're not working, you're not going to get that private loan. And all it does is separate the wealth going further up, the middle class and the low income going further down. And he voted for that. And it really bugs me. And I could talk all night. So here, go, Eddie.
Tara Probst. It's pretty hard to follow that, don't you think? She's got chutzpah, and it's a pleasure serving with her on the floor in Harrisburg. And when she has something to say, she lets everyone know that she has something to say. And she does it very professional, very articulate. What a wonderful experience this is for me to see all of you here today. And I say that in all honesty because when I spoke to Megan Coker, who, by the way, deserves another round of applause. She indicated to me that I'd be speaking to the students at Wilkes University. And as I look across the aisles here, she was right. Exactly. And this is the university that I had the pleasure of attending, where I got my degree in music, and I too am the first in my family to have a college degree. My dad was a coal miner. We were brought up in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. My dad served in World War II, as did my uncles. Worked hard. Mom worked for a shoe store. And we lived on 164.5 West Noble Street with my grandmother and grandfather. But you know what we had? Love. Love, a lot of love. You know what else we had? Discipline, respect, help one another. And that's what we're going to need now. All of us here are going to play a role in the future for our kids like Megan and these kids that are at Wilkes. All of us are going to have to play a role in speaking the truth. Just speaking the truth. What Representative Probst talked about there briefly, a billionaire has no idea what it's like to live in half a double block on West Noble Street in Nanticoke. They are missing out on something very special. You know why? Because from all those half a double blocks, all over the United States, came the people who worked, built this country, fought for this country, and died for this country. And we are not going to let those guys in Washington just do whatever they want when they want. The big, beautiful scam. The big, beautiful scam. How in heaven's name do you think it is fair to take the money away from the poor, the working class, the middle class, the upper middle class, and give it to people who need it, and they are billionaires? Multimillionaires? We can't even think what that is like. They don't have to worry about taxes. They don't have to worry about the cost of the car. They don't have to worry about food. They don't have to worry about heat and light. It's beyond. But I want to make a point. I have tremendous respect for anyone who works hard and becomes a success. I have great respect for anyone who works hard and becomes a millionaire, a multimillionaire, or a billionaire. Because they worked for it. They worked for it. You guys have worked for living in a full house, not a half a double block. You've worked for your children to get an education so they have a better life than you. You've worked and you've sacrificed for the brilliance of this country. We are the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world. And how did we do that? Because it took everybody. America gave everybody a chance. That's not what's happening now in Washington. They are destroying the rule of law. They're so cocky. I can do whatever I want to do, and I'll do whatever I want to do. I don't like you, so I'm going to arrest you. What in heaven's name? How in heaven's name can anyone stand up for that when we know that this country was based on the rule of law? That's the only thing that keeps us civil and safe and respect for one another. I could go on and on and on and on, but I want to make sure everyone has a chance to express themselves. I'm sorry, I had to get it out of my system. It's the big, beautiful scam. That wasn't done for the people of this country.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe. This is directed to our state representatives that are on the panel. How does the big, beautiful bill impact the state budget with cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, and also cuts to education? I could direct that to our professors that are on the panel.
Sure. So, number one, do you notice that they're not putting it all into effect until after the midterms in 2026? Because many people that voted for them and think that he's doing wonderful things for them, are going to be screwed like they've never been screwed before, and excuse my French. So he's not putting it in to action until after November of 2026. How is it going to affect us? It already is. We get calls left and right, and when the state offices get calls that are federal, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, Veteran Services, we have to direct them to our congressman. And they're not getting called back, they're not getting answers. So who do they come back to? The ones they know, me and Eddie Day. So it's already affecting us, and it hasn't even begun. It's when the education, Monroe County schools, and you know that the Wilkes-Barre School District had a lawsuit. They were one of 7 school districts that sued for inequitable funding. When we don't get that money from the federal government, which they're holding on to, they can't run. And the fact that it's already been voted to give this to the states and Congress, and they say, I don't want to, and they're getting away with it, we need to be very concerned, and the Supreme Court might even be a little scarier, and this is how fascism starts.
Those are very, very important points that Representative Probst made. So it's affecting us now. It's affecting everyone all over the country now because of the way they're doing it. And what I'm referring to is, in Pennsylvania, our governor called the President of the United States to find out why they broke the contract. Did you hear the word contract? Pennsylvania and many states throughout the country have contracts with the federal government for certain different kinds of processes. And one of those was SNAP. All right? We had a contract. We had a contract so that our farmers, our Pennsylvania farmers, knew that they had to grow so much food because that food was then going to be transported and given to certain people who were within an economic status. It created not just the food for those children, it's Pennsylvania food grown in Pennsylvania. It's paying for our farmers, it's also the transportation, it's also the fact that we are providing the nourishment necessary, especially for those children, to learn. You can't learn when you're hungry and you have that pain. So the governor reached out, they didn't respond. The governor sent emails, they didn't respond. The governor sent a letter, they didn't respond. So our governor, along with 15 other governors, got together and said, we're going to sue the federal government. And that is the process that they're in. But think about it. You had a signed contract with the federal government with a process that had taken place for years. And now all of a sudden, at this point, after the food is planted and grown, now you're going to cut that contract. They're doing that with every aspect, whether it's education in schools, taking money away from this program or that program. Look, if there's fraud, waste, and abuse, we don't have a problem with fixing that, do we? No, we don't have money to waste. We don't have money for fraud. We don't have money for abuse. But there's a right way to do it. And the right way to do it is to definitely meet with that group, find out what the issue is, what can be done, and work towards fixing that, not just ripping it out of the hearts and souls of kids and parents and farmers all over this country. It's the way they're conducting their business.
And can I just say on that note, before we end the question, we all pay federal taxes, right? Anyone here that works pays into the federal government. We all pay into Social Security. We pay the federal government. And I would much rather put my money towards people that need it the most than billionaires.
Before I get to the education part of the question, there are a couple of other things that we have to think about that are beyond the surface level. One of the things that many of us are very worried about is actually not just the Medicaid cuts, but what this is going to mean for hospitals and access to hospitals, especially in rural areas, because when that many people lose health insurance and that many people lose coverage, hospitals that are already under great stress are going to be at high risk of closing, and if that happens, that's going to affect access to all of us. Also, though, what we know historically is when you cut access to health insurance of any kind, people rely heavily on emergency rooms for their care. That is both the most unreliable, uneconomical means of care. It is incredibly wasteful, but all of that money gets redistributed across the system. So this is going to impact all of us, whether you're on Medicaid or Medicare or not. So this is a concern. I haven't seen much attention paid to the energy part of this bill, too, and that's another big concern. The North American Building Trade Union called the Inflation Reduction Act's Clean Energy Tax Credit elimination the biggest job-killing bill in the history of the country. So we're talking jobs, too. So it's bigger than just the surface-level things, and it's important to understand that. In terms of education, in addition to the very alarming cuts to student loans, I would not have been able to get my PhD under the current arrangement. I wouldn't have had enough funding to finish my degree. I'm also self-supported. I wouldn't have had access to that, and that's the reality. I worry about my own child's education. But in addition to the changes in the bill, on June 30th, the Department of Education announced that it's withholding almost $7 billion in public school funds. This is separate from the bill that just passed, because these funds were already approved and allocated. And these are funding grants that are used for particular programs for English learners, after-school programs. So if you have after-school programs for people who need extra after-school care so they can work their jobs, those things are under threat right now. Teachers' professional development support and adult education support. So these are particular grant programs that the current Department of Education, while it exists, is trying to withhold funds from. Now, this isn't technically allowed. It's against the rules because it has already been allocated. So it will be litigated in court, and we will see what happens with that, like many of the other things that have been challenged. But so that's, in terms of education, public education, that cut is also a pretty significant cut to watch out for, and then we have to see what will happen with it. If you have specific questions about the student loan plan changes and things like that, I can also answer questions about that, though.
My name's Alan Frank. I'm an optometrist from Kingston. I think the whole ICE thing, deportation stuff going on is just an absolute disgrace and an abomination, and I'm ashamed to be an American with a policy like that. It's a total disgrace. But Representative Pashinski, I think you could probably answer this best than anybody. I don't understand, what is the extent of ICE in the Wilkes-Barre area? Are they here? Have they deported people here? Is there anything we can do to prevent them from deporting people? The other thing is, I saw where the district attorney, Sandy Aguchi, whatever his name is. Now, I don't know what he did with, I think the thing was that he said he was going to train ICE, he was going to allow ICE to train local sheriffs and thus to be part of whatever, ICE or that whole thing, which I don't think is such a bad idea in the sense that if what he means by that is ICE will have information on people that are criminals, hard criminals that may be in the area, and by deputizing or whatever the sheriff and them, that will overrule having ICE people have to come in. And is that what's going on with his thinking there? And I called his office, I couldn't even get anybody to answer. But is that what it is? ICE is going to have the information for the bad people, and the local sheriffs and them will go in and be able to arrest them? And the other thing, I just want to know what the whole thing with ICE in this whole area is, and answers to those questions. I know it's a lot of questions. Thank you.
Dr. Frank, thank you very much for your question. Unfortunately, I do not have any accurate information on what you asked. I have no idea whether ICE is here yet. It appears that they're going to the major cities throughout the country and going there first. And your statement about having our local police and sheriffs and officials take care of those that are criminals, I think none of us would agree with that, would we? If they're a criminal, they have a right to eliminate those criminals. What we're concerned about, I think what you're concerned about, is the way they're doing it. There's no identification on many of these ICE members. They are concealing their faces. I think I'm getting robbed. If they were to come up to us, what did I do? I don't know. Oh, you don't know who I am? Just like they did to a couple of our servicemen. They took our servicemen because they looked a certain way. No, it's horrible. I don't know what I was going to say the Attorney General. What Sanguidochi is saying, other than renting them that building, that's the only thing that we're aware of right now. How they're going to process it, how many they're going to bring in, we have not been informed, at least not me. Anyone here?
In 44th. There's a building in 44th that's been rented. The only, I know limited information. Basically, they've signed an agreement. It's the first district attorney in Pennsylvania to sign an agreement with ICE. Though ICE does have agreements with other law enforcement agencies in the state. Just this is the first district attorney to do so. And the idea is that it deputizes state and local officers to do immigration enforcement. And I get your being interested in maybe having some training, because it seems like a lot of the people who are doing this are not trained, or at least aren't following proper procedure. But there were definite concerns about due process that I have as a citizen. Everyone should have a right to due process. And if anyone doesn't have a right to due process, none of us have due process. We have to protect due process. It matters.
And I think it's important to tie this back to the bill that Bresnahan voted for, because that bill included an unprecedented amount of money for ICE, for DHS, for enforcement, for building prisons and detention camps, to concentrate the population of people. I think the experts who study concentration camps call them concentration camps. The intention of these camps is really clear, and the ways that they're being hastily built and filled, we already know mistakes are being made. They're being filled haphazardly with all kinds of people who have been here for years, who are being mothers, or being separated from very young children. Bresnahan voted to give them a lot more money to carry out what they want to do, and that's what that bill did.
And connect back to question one, this is also redirecting money that was being used for many other really critical services, like emergency services and things like that.
I just wanted to comment on that same issue. I share a lot of the same concerns as all of you as far as ICE in the area and due process for a lot of the individuals going through this process. For a lot of you who don't know me, my name is Brittany Stevenson. I'm currently serving on Luzerne County Council. And I just wanted to clarify with the public here that Luzerne County Council does not vote on this decision. We do not have any power in that predicament. DA Sangledulch, that is in his control and in his field house. So I just wanted to clarify that as well, that County Council does not have a say on what takes place there, but we are very well aware, and I'm making sure that we're asking the necessary questions that you are all posing through social media, through comments, through your friends and your family. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beth. I live in Dallas. And my question is, first of all, I hope everybody still reads the actual newspaper, because if you do, if you do, you will notice in Luzerne County there's been an uptick in a specific type of person getting arrested with specific sounding last names for the past year. So there is definitely a concentrated effort to criminalize a whole group of people. Whether they come in as a criminal or they're focused on is a whole different ball of wax. But my thing today, well, one of my many things today is, it was reported in the Times Leader that Bresnahan raised $50,000 in his first quarter, and then right after the big, miserable bill, he had raised $800,000. Is that a normal amount of fundraising for a quarter? And is it fair to assume that he was bribed?
When you have inside trader information, all your friends get very wealthy now, don't they? Right? When the President of the United States is saying it's a good time to buy this stock, so that could be a reason why he probably made millions off of just this last quarter. I just want to say something about that. Yeah, so they're the PAC, right? So the Koch brothers and, Jeffrey Yass, all these other people. I just want to say something, though, about what you brought up. He's the expert on this. We have voted in the State House to stop the money in politics. It is out of control, and what happens is politicians pick you. You don't pick your politicians when money is in politics. They find a way to gerrymander, they find a way to outspend, they find a way to lie. I mean, Eddie and I, you should see some of the cards that, it's like our worst picture of all time. And we've got the face and it's like Eddie Day doesn't care about you, you know, and it's insane. But they've got gazillions of dollars. And so we have actually passed out of our committees in the state, and I am on state government, local government, education, tourism, and intergovernmental affairs. And I am also on one more, I can't remember, oh, housing. But I want to go back to due process, what you're talking about. You know, because of guaranteed student loans, I was able to obtain a law degree. I was older, I was in my late 20s, right, at the time. And one of the things that we always take for granted is due process. Like, oh, they're gonna arrest me, but I'm gonna have my due process. Well, then I'm in law school, and then I'm learning about the higher prison rates for Black and brown people. I'm learning about red line districts, how these beautiful communities with Black and brown people were cut off by roads so that they couldn't get to sidewalks to lead them to better health care, better schools. And as I got older and I learned, I knew exactly how this country was going for a long time. So the fact that this administration doesn't want to give anybody due process, and they don't want us to know, I mean, something as simple as Black Wall Street, I never even learned it. I learned it when it was on the nightly news, and I said, how in the hell did I not ever know about this, right? The Trump administration does not want to acknowledge all of the goodness and greatness that Black and brown people have brought to this country. And he's making it clear. Project 2025 is happening right now as we speak, cutting off funding for education, cutting off ways to get housing, generational wealth, jobs, you name it, they're cutting it. Because if you aren't part of the wealth, then you don't deserve it. And it's insane to me. So that was insider trading, no doubt, with all these stock sales going on. And nobody is gonna do a thing about it. Because if they do, they're out. If they do, they're gonna be primaried. If they do, as a matter of fact, I heard from one of my close friends who works in Washington that said that there's actually death threats to people. And I believe it. I believe people are afraid for their families and everything else, but you know what? No job is worth it. I would rather roll over and die. I'd rather clean a toilet than ever fall to the pressure of the machine. I never will.
You said it was $100,000? Oh, 800,000. Thank you. That's nothing. What? How many of you have heard of Citizens United? Citizens United is part of the problem. Before Citizens United, no major companies could donate to a candidate more than $5,000, $10,000. Now they create 501c3s, they put in millions of dollars, and now those millions of dollars go behind a person that has their thoughts, that has their ideas, that has their plans. And what are their plans? To control. To control. So when you talk about the kind of money that's now involved, it's not thousands, it's not hundreds of thousands, it's not millions, it's billions of dollars being spent on political campaigns. It's outrageous. As an example, my colleague, Jim Haddock, the other side, and the Commonwealth Foundation, as you pointed out, and a couple of those others, $3 million against him. $3 million. Where did Jimmy get it? We had to raise money. He had to raise money. Yes, and Democrats also have wealthy people that help us. Thank God. Because if we didn't, we couldn't compete. Mine was only $1 million they put against me. Now, I'm going to give you a little secret. So when I first ran, I took a second mortgage out in my house for $50,000. I raised $20,000, and I won. That ain't gonna happen now. I have to now try to raise more money in order to compete against that $1 million that's coming against me. Because the average person only sees that TV spot, only gets that letter, that mailer. That's all you see. So if I can't counter that, well, then you're gonna believe that mailer. You see what I mean? So as a result, the problem is there's way too much money in the system. And they want it that way. Because billionaires, $1 million is nothing to a billionaire, even to a multimillionaire. It's amazing the amount of money that's being spent. That's why we, as regular, hardworking, God-fearing, God-loving Americans, love this country. That's why you have to be involved. That's why you have to be aware. That's why you have to search for the truth. You go to the people that you know is going to give you that truth. My door is open. I know Representative Probst's door is open. We'll be there. We'll try to do everything we can to help. But you guys, of, by, and for the people, who put them in office? The people. Who takes us out of office? The people. But as an American citizen, you have tremendous rights, but you also have one responsibility, and that is to please search for the truth and the facts, and let the truth and facts guide your words and actions and your vote. Don't get sucked into something that isn't true. Search for the truth and the facts. You're in charge.
Quick academic aside while you're coming down with the mic for the next person. If you don't know about Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre, there's a great documentary called Blood on Black Wall Street. You can YouTube it, learn all about it.
Good evening. My name is Eric Skelton. I'm from Wyoming, PA. The question I wanted to ask is, I was hoping you explained this to me. One of the big issues with this bill is rural hospitals that are already in crisis are going to have the carpet pulled out from them. To my understanding, what that means is Medicare reimbursements are going to dry up. And when the Medicare reimbursements dry up, they're going to go out of business. When I was looking at the bill, I seen something about a $50 billion rural hospital fund that was put in. And if you ask the Republicans, they'll say, well, that's put in because we care about rural hospitals. But my question is, to me, knowing nothing about it, me not being a treasurer or not knowing anything, $50 billion to me seems like it's not going to cover the entire country. It seems like a drop in the bucket. But that's all I know. So I'm coming to you guys. Could you explain the reality around this $50 billion fund that apparently the rural hospitals are going to have to rely on? I assume they're probably going to have to fight over, rural hospitals from California to Pennsylvania, from Florida to Montana. They're all going to have to fight over this $50 billion. That's my understanding. Pardon me? Oh,
It's a one-time fund.
well, I'm gonna.
So this was a Band-Aid to make it look better.
Okay, so it's one time.
One time.
So there's one allocation of $50 billion, and then when that $50 billion fund is up, there's no more money. There's not $50 billion in the next appropriation, and the next that's it. That is, so then what do they say to the hospitals in 2026, 2027? What? Go to hell? Die? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can answer that for Pennsylvania. First of all, we have hospitals around us that are closing and merging. If you're in Scranton right now, I don't even think there's a place for maternity. It is that bad. You've got corporate greed hospitals that are putting profits over patients, and then you've got rural hospitals that are working their tails off trying to take care of people, but they can't. The money's not coming in. And if you don't have insurance when Medicaid or Medicare is cut, for whatever reasons, you still are allowed to walk into a hospital emergency room and they must take care of you. Nobody can pay them now. Nobody. So I just think that we have to look at this as a domino effect. By cutting Medicaid, by just cutting it, you're hurting the most vulnerable. And those most vulnerable still need services. They're going to go to services. Now, They cut the funding for Planned Parenthood, which I want to go, I can't swear here, but I want to go apeshit over it. I'm so mad over it. They cut all funding. In my district, when they closed our local Planned Parenthood, it serviced 4,000 families, men and women, cancer screenings. It wasn't just abortion. And even if it was, that is women's health care and their right, and nobody else's. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So just cutting a place like Planned Parenthood, the most vulnerable that need these services, you know what was said by the state senator, or she was in the House of Representatives at the time, Rosemary Brown? She's like, well, they can go up to Wilkes-Barre. And I just wanted to throw a swing because, you know what, Rosemary? I didn't have a car until after college. I didn't have access. We don't have the best public transportation here, and they don't have any money. Like, it's just infuriating when you come from up here, you just never realize the situation of somebody else's shoes. And these hospitals, we work with Dr. Arvind Venkat. He is in the House of Representatives. He's an ER doctor. He talks about it day in and day out. And the Senate has our medical bank right now sitting over in the Senate to make sure we have a bank of money for people in Pennsylvania that are going to need it. Because believe me, we're going to need it.
The other part to this is when you don't have the dollars to pay for the service, it's only natural that you're going to lose some of your physicians, your nurses, anesthetists. You're going to lose all those special things. And I serve on what's called the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. We travel the state trying to talk to areas that are less populated. And the trend right now is they're going to lose approximately 5% of their population. And the urban areas, including Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, of course, Philly, and so on, will gain 5%. Well, that's where those doctors are going to go, because it's a certain amount of dollars that they're going to need. And what it does is it eliminates that structure within a civilized society. Everybody has to have health care at one point or not. So the point is, how do we as a state now try to find dollars enough to fund it so that we can still keep some of those hospitals open for the protection and the health of the people that live in that 50-mile radius, 25-mile radius, 10-mile radius. Because once you lose some of those hospitals, you're going to be traveling 100 miles. And that is dangerous. That means, yeah, your chances of not living are much better. Yes, ma'am.
Something that I have a real concern about relevant to this that I don't really hear get discussed enough, and I think it's critically important if you understand the fabric of Luzerne County, of our area. We have a very old population. We are the 9th oldest county in the country, population-wise. Everybody in this room has had to be in a nursing home, put a loved one in a nursing home. I may not be that many years away from a nursing home. And having experienced that in my own family, they almost always, we're not a wealthy community. There's very few people that can afford to fund their nursing home care. And they go on Medicaid. And nursing homes, there's one on every block, and they're full. What's going to happen when the Medicaid dries up? Who's going to take all these old people in? I'm really, really concerned about it. I have a family member in nursing home care that Medicaid is funding, and that nursing home could very conceivably close down. So I just really want to I wanted to bring that up because the hospital thing is obviously critically important, but again, in our area where we have an aging population, the nursing home situation is really terrifying.
So it is. It is. And you know what? I want to tell you what they say. Oh, we're only cutting it for able-bodied workers. Yeah. Who is an able-bodied? They already go through Medicaid. They already go through a process to get approved for Medicaid. So what do they want to do? Oh, I think you're able-bodied, so I'm going to change my mind and you're not getting it. or the mom that stays home with her, whether it's her mother, father, brother, sister, or child that is disabled, and they're caretakers all day? Or what about the mom that has a child that needs a TSS worker inside the school district? That child must go on Medicaid. You must do that in order to get that worker in the school district. Now, they are going to make it that much harder for the parents that need this extra help in our schools because they're not going to get it. Because able-bodied, I mean, you tell me, you could be an able-bodied but have other disabilities. You could be able-bodied, but taking care of you could be in the sandwich generation. You got kids and you got parents and there's issues and you're a caretaker because nobody else does it. We're already lacking in the healthcare field. We don't pay enough to the healthcare people or the nursing home workers, or we don't even pay enough now. And it is gonna be a big, gigantic disaster. So you should be concerned. I'm very concerned. And it's not going to get any easier. I almost feel like it weeds people out. I almost feel like this is what they're almost looking to do. Let the sick perish. Let the people who are living too long, let the old people go. Let the poor people who don't have the money to get the best health care, let them kind of suffer. And I really feel like they're weeding out. And it's very, very concerning to me. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but I'm watching it happen before my eyes.
So I do the history of eugenics, and yes, I mean that. I mean, here's something that. So I work on the history of institutionalization of people who were disabled, right? And in the 1960s and 1970s, there was this big social outcry that said, we can't be warehousing people. It's cruel, they're suffering, we're violating their human rights by having them live in these places. And so many of those institutions, the places that house people with mental illness and mental disabilities, they were cleared out and people were sent to home and community-based services without enough money following them, but still a positive step. And yet, nursing homes have not received the same kind of attention about the abuse and lack of care that happens in these facilities. And all of these fights are all connected because if we care about, we believe the state bears responsibility for helping people care for the people in their lives, that it's supposed to step in and help us care for each other when we don't have the resources at our disposal to provide all that care ourselves. We believe that that's something the state should do, then the state needs to do it. And it's not. It's leaving people to their own devices. It's leaving often mothers and daughters to pick up the slack and do the impossible to try and provide care that they don't have the ability to provide. And it does end up creating this eugenic effect where it says people who are wealthy are that way because they are more worthy and have just more value. And so those are people who can take care of themselves, and that's what they get to do. And if a person, for any reason, isn't able to take care of themselves or the people in their immediate circle, they have less value and are not going to receive anything to help them provide the care they need to do. And so it is a really clear tradition in American history that there are some people who have more value than others, and that people who have less value are starved of the resources they need. And that's what's going on, and it's reaching everyone. We've got lots of lines that divide people on different values, and age is one of them, that you're right to raise it, and it's tied to all these fights about disability and education, and race and racism and ethnicity. And it's also, coming back to our earlier conversation, ICE raids and this expansion of kind of immigration enforcement is also taking healthcare workers out of places that are already short-staffed. And so that's another way where it's all connected.
It might be helpful to have some numbers. According to Georgetown University, in 2023, 24.5% of Luzerne County residents were on Medicaid. We are one of the highest Medicaid rates in the state of Pennsylvania, 24.5% in 2023. The average for the state is 21.7%. Now, these changes aren't going to affect every person on Medicaid, but they're going to affect enough people for it to have a large impact on the whole system. So,
my name is Denise Parashak, and I'm a retired registered nurse. I've worked with the elderly. I've worked in facilities, long-term care facilities, and the amount of work that it takes to care for people is just really unimaginable if you've ever done this type of work. This is 24-hour-a-day skilled nursing care. So if these nursing homes are extremely understaffed, if they have to close, a lot of these people, keep in mind, might be in their 90s. So if they're in their 90s and now they have to go back to be cared for by their adult children are in their 70s. And that's if they have adult children. A lot of people don't have family members that could take care of them. So their elderly children who are in their 70s, maybe late 60s, have to provide 24-hour care, skilled nursing care. It takes a tremendous amount of energy. It could affect the health of the 70-year-olds. There could be complications, health complications for those in their 90s and those in their 80s. If they have complications such as infections, malnutrition, so many different conditions related to, they have to be repositioned, they need feeding tubes, it's just unimaginable, then they have to be hospitalized. So now you're adding more patients. The hospitals are overflowing. We have a situation where rural hospitals are going to be closing, but yet these people, you know, they have to be cared for and they should be cared for, are going to be lined up in emergency rooms for complications that could have been prevented if they were in facilities where they received the proper care 24 hours a day. So this could be a dire, dire situation, a horrible nightmare situation.
So the $50 billion for hospitals, that's nothing more than their acknowledgement that they know it's going to hurt hospitals. That's how I think about that, right? Also, the state of Pennsylvania is not going to be able to fill this gap. We're running a $5 billion deficit, and we're heading towards a fiscal crisis in the state of Pennsylvania. There's no way they can cover that. And let me just say that income inequality, there's a reason why all this is happening. Income inequality is out of control, and tax policy has gone full oligarchy. That's what's happening, and that's why all these things are moving right now.
Scott from Plymouth. I have a quick comment and then a question. 3 times I had contacted Rob Bresnahan's office to ask him how many undocumented immigrants are receiving Medicare and Medicaid in his district and in the state. I believe he used his vote because of that. He said he didn't want undocumented people having those services. 3 times, and he's never answered the question. My question to you is, I understand that Pennsylvania has emergency Medicare for undocumented immigrants who have life-threatening injuries, that it's Medicare or Medicaid, I'm not sure. Does this bill eliminate that, and will those people with life-threatening injuries be denied?
Yeah. So there is already very, very limited availability of Medicaid to non-citizens, very limited. Effective October 1st, 2026, Medicaid eligibility for qualified aliens who are humanitarian recipients, so this is what we're talking about, very small particular group of people like refugees who have fled war and have come here, people who are here under asylum for particular reasons. Sometimes medical asylum is a thing where people come here to get particular kinds of medical care for children, for example, things like that. And then those people will lose coverage as of October 2026. It's the most inhumane kind of decision presented in the name of not providing care for undocumented people. But this is apparently the country that we live in, that we criminalize trying to care for people and lie about, misrepresent how how Medicaid is used and who's getting coverage. The people who will still be eligible who are non-citizens are only going to include lawful permanent residents, certain Cuban and Haitian entrants, and citizens of freely associated states. So most people who are here for particular reasons who are getting medical care will lose that care, and they will possibly die.
I had a comment and a question, but we'll start with the question first. So I heard emails, texts, phone calls, and I see postcards over here. We know that milk carton guy, the guy at, yeah, that guy, and the guy at Washington, and a few more, and all like those 15 governors who wanted to talk with him and God knows who else. That's not working. We see that since at least 6 months now, or maybe longer. So I'm sure you two, or maybe many more, could go in person and talk. Have you thought about that? Because the doorstep and the door, and maybe the house where they live in, is more accessible to you than us. So if text, email, postcards, nothing work, can't we just go and talk with them? Because in person, like that's what I do at Wilkes. At least I talk with everyone who I can, and it works. So maybe give that a shot. And the comment, I don't know if you guys know about Judge Max Rosen, because I know you said you were afraid that they have a lot of cash and they will win the elections compared to you, because people will see everywhere that he's there and he will win. What I think, at least, if you know us and we see your work, you will win, period. Ask anyone over here. If we see your work, you will win. So don't care about the bucks and whatnot and campaigning. If you do the work, we see it, you will win. God bless America.
Thank you. I do want to say something, because I love that there's a lot of, when I say young people, you are going to be running this country in the future, and I hope you start now and you're concerned. What I get concerned about is my 18-year-old son, who only knows Donald Trump, who only knows politics from the age of this guy being on TV, acting like, it's an embarrassment, the way he speaks, the way he treats people, the just taking away negotiations from other countries, whether it be USAID, all these things that we have tried to do to help other people and to be the country and be the leader and keep our promises. My 18-year-old son thinks that this presidency, this is how it is. This is normal. And it's very scary to me. Now, luckily I'm his mom, and I beat him up when he says something. But the news feeds that he gets, the stuff that he gets, I have to say to him, Hunter, it's not normal. This is not normal. Finally, after battling with him about certain things, he's like mad about a bunch of things now that are going on. And I thought, finally, and believe me, it's the young boy, it's that bro movement and the toughness, and this is what they grew up with. But it really bothers me. He has no idea, even though we tell him, and he's learned what we fought for in World War II. It's almost like World War II doesn't exist to an 18-year-old boy today. They don't even know what we were there for. They don't even know what Germany was doing. I mean, it's scary, because it's happening right now. So history repeats itself, and I'm a little afraid of that.
One thing in terms of your question about going there, yes, our representative should show up there, but so should we. The problem has been that Representative Bresnahan has not had his office staffed very frequently. There have been many demonstrations in front of his office, even if he's not there. Since, we are honoring John Lewis today, there's a long history of nonviolent civil protest in this country, to say, you need to see us, even if you don't want to. So I think I would encourage people to just keep doing that work, keep showing up, keep phoning, keep emailing, keep doing all of the pressure that you can do, because it does make a difference. And we have a representative democracy, and they are supposed to represent our constituents. And so we have to keep the pressure up. Unfortunately, it's hard right now to have more pressure than the political parties that are represented, but we have numbers. And it's important that that's part of the way the system works. So yes, ideally, he would be here for us to talk to. I wish he would be here. I wish we could go to his office. But people do answer the phone sometimes. The voicemail's not always full. Sometimes there is room. But you should call. You should keep doing that, because this is the only, we can't give up on that kind of direct action.
Well, I did meet with him, you guys, and you know what he said to me? I said, I'm concerned 19% of my district is Hispanic. Well, Tara, President Trump, we only want to go after bad guys, criminals, right? The next day, he's in front of the Pike County Commissioners, in front of an ICE with a jail cell. They're so proud that this is where we're going to put the roundup, the next day. Then I said, public education. This cyber charter stuff is off the charts. It's draining our public education. Oh, yeah, I agree. And then he goes and cuts it. So you know what? I'll meet with him. He'll lie to my face, and he's just going to do what President Trump's people want him to do. He is a puppet. He has no thoughts of his own, and he has no balls to stand up to anybody.
Perfectly said.
All right, my name is John Palumbo. I live in Falls. I do most of my work in Luzerne County. My question is for both of the professors on the panel. What is the legal process for an undocumented person in the country supposed to look like, and how does it compare to immigration law in the past? I am under the impression that it's a misdemeanor to be undocumented, yet I often hear that the immediate response to anyone seeking refuge in the country is to send them back. When we hear outlandish misinformation regarding immigration or any other government-related topic, do you have any advice for us to combat the misinformation without raising tensions amongst those who spread it?
That's a great question, and it has been one of the big concerns at the moment that I've been watching, because political asylum is supposed to be a legal process that people can come to our border and seek legal refuge here, and there's a process that they're supposed to go to. Because of changes in the way that that process has worked, now the current way that that works is if people seek asylum, they immediately get detained. And they are detained until they get to have their asylum hearing. So they are going through the legal process, but are often held like criminals until they have their process. And then for people, there's a lot of misrepresentation and misinformation that people don't understand about what the legal process looks like, right? The legal process to gain legal status here is long and complicated and expensive, and almost impossible if you are already here illegally or without documentation. I don't like to call people illegal. I think that's a problem rhetorically, so I just don't like that. But if you're already undocumented, it's very hard to get documented status while you're already here. But even the process to get documented status, if you're going through that process, is a long, lengthy process. But what we're seeing right now, unfortunately, are direct attempts to interrupt the legal processes. So you cannot simultaneously say people should do it legally and interrupt those legal processes, because then again, due process goes away, right? So if you're showing up to immigration court and arresting people, then you're interrupting that process and not allowing people to have that process. this is, a lot of times you hear the language of this is a nation of immigrants, but that is problematic language. We are not a nation of immigrants because there are already people living here before the first European immigrants got here, and there are some people who were brought here against their will, so they were not immigrants. They did not come voluntarily. But for many of us sitting in this room, our ancestors did come here, and for many of us, we came here during a process that was much more open, where people just showed up, and they were here, and then they got to be here. And so, you know, that question is one steeped in quite a lot of complicated history that is very much based in bias and prejudice and direct attempts to keep certain people out of our country at different times, right, in targeted ways. And I think it's a misrepresentation of history to not say that and to not think about that. So there are a lot of things that have changed right now, but the most concerning are that those legal processes are being circumvented in various ways and interrupted, and fear is being used to keep people away from going through those legal processes. And when people are going through those processes, they're not being treated well. They're not being treated humanely, and that is certainly a major humanitarian concern. So it's a wide-ranging question, so there are a lot of ways we could go with the answer, but that's at least some of it.
Yeah, I want to make sure we have time for some other questions, but I'll briefly, as Dr. Davis alluded, emphasize that there's plenty of history of nativism in this country. It's not a new thing for people to say horrible things about people who are deemed less American or non-American, and to use horrific procedures to keep them out. What I think is important to recognize about this moment is taking it to the history of the war on terror. When I teach modern US, I spend a lot of time teaching it because most of the people who are in college now they don't have memories of it, they weren't born yet. And so recognizing that the Department of Homeland Security did not exist until the kind of apparatus was put up, thanks to the Patriot Act and other things, in response to 9/11. And the expansion of surveillance capacities, that those are now being leveraged against people who are being identified and criminalized, sometimes overnight, right? There are people in the United States, hundreds of thousands of people who have temporary protected status, and the Trump administration has been given a green light to take that status away. So the Trump administration is creating illegal immigrants, is creating undocumented immigrants in order to deport them. They're increasing the number of them because who is legal and illegal depends on the law and who gets to write the law. And so it's actually a really flexible thing, which means it's something that we can contest, right? It's not set in stone what it means to be here the right way. And so that's what I think is a hopeful thing to take from it. It's up for grabs because the Trump administration is saying they can overnight declare hundreds of thousands of people illegal. It means there's a lot of mechanisms at our disposal to tell people that they are welcome in America and that they have every right to stay here.
So, quick question. Is this the first time in U.S. history that this has happened where the president or the administration has illegalized people? No, this is World War II.
No. No, I mean, we can look to World War II and the internment of Japanese and Japanese Americans is a really prominent example. You can also think about Native Americans and the way that their citizenship status has fluctuated and changed over the centuries based on federal policy. So it's always something that's been contested and has gotten different answers.
All right, real quick, I just have to do a quick PSA. I know some people have been filtering out, and we don't judge because the panel was supposed to end at 7:30, and I know we got a late start to that. However, I just want to be conscious and courteous of at least the panelists, Representative Probst. I know you drove a long way, so no one will judge, but if you're more than welcome to stay, we can stay here till 8 and do a few more questions, and that applies to the rest of the panelists who maybe didn't drive as far.
Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight.
My name is David Kerr. I'm a resident of the city of Wilkes-Barre. Our daughter is an immigration attorney. for Legal Aid Society in New York City. It's awful. Administrative judges are denying bond hearings. People are incarcerated. Families are incarcerated. Their caseload is incredible. On top of that, there are threats that are now being made to immigration attorneys and judges, which are affecting the legal process of our country. My question is, do the states, because apparently the Supreme Court says the only way to get any action at all is class action lawsuits, are the states forming together to oppose ICE raids, threats to legal representation of people who have legitimate asylum claims, which is what our country is founded on, as you were pointing out, Dr. Davis?
Some states have been doing some of that work, and it has varied, and you've seen some of the direct responses, right? So some cities have tried to do some of this work, some states have done this work, are working on this work. There are so many legal challenges happening in the courts right now, it's almost impossible to keep track of. I don't know if you have any information about Pennsylvania specifically, any day, but.
Only that the governor is definitely going to pursue any kind of legal course of action, just like he did when he got together with 15 other states and created that lawsuit against the federal government for breaking those contracts, for the food. So I think what the situation is right now is we are in a process of trying to organize all that we need in order to deal with the challenges. Their position is very simple. We're going to do what we want, when we want, and just try to stop us. They're not talking about law. They're not talking about order. They're not talking about humanity. It's, we're in charge. We're going to do whatever we want. And that's why when I said to you all, that's why it's important that we all have the information that we can get and stand up to them, because right now they are definitely threatening with many forms of pain governors, senators, representatives, lawyers. You already saw what they did with the one lawyer, okay? So they're doing everything in a way to scare everybody to be quiet. But what I say to you is there's more good in this country than not. There's more of us than them. It may get ugly, but we're going to have to stand up, and we're going to have to make sure they feel the pain as well.
Got to switch the name tags too, can't forget that.
How you doing? My name is Rose Daniels, and I live here in Wilkes-Barre. I've been here for almost a decade now, just learning and growing and being a part of this dope community. And my question lies with education. I've worked with many youth in this area for most of the years I've been here, and I noticed that there is a trend of youth falling behind on their reading and their literacy skills. And with all the budget cuts coming to education, and after COVID and experiencing and seeing that a lot of Black and brown students were left back and are still struggling to catch up, what are any contingency plans in place? Is there going to be funding available maybe to nonprofits to help fulfill some of those literacy needs on a community-based level? What can we kind of expect as a community to support our youth?
I'm very worried about that question. Our state budget for education has already been strained quite a lot. As we have seen pretty serious cuts in education in this state. Tara has already mentioned the lawsuit that happened, including Wilkes-Barre school district who was part of that because some of our schools are so desperately underfunded already. And so I am worried about the strain. I think all of our nonprofit services are going to be strained as a result of the strain on our systems, right? Because certainly we want to step up and do everything that we can to support our nonprofit groups who are doing this work on the ground. But they're already stressed and strained themselves, and so that can't be the permanent answer. We have to keep pushing for adequate funding for our public schools, especially, and pay attention to how voucher votes are being pushed and other things that are going to have big impacts potentially on school funding. It's a good question. I don't think there's an easy answer. I don't know if Eddie Day has some other.
Well, a couple things. First of all, let's remember that lawsuit that we were talking about here, that was won. Okay, when I say it was one, the school districts filed a suit against the state because the state was not funding their schools at the level they should have been. What do I mean? So the state funding for each school district, just give you some round numbers, should be 50% of whatever your school's budget is. And then the federal government comes in and they pay 10 to 15%, give or take. And then the property tax owners pay the difference. And for many people, property taxes have risen year after year after year because the state was funding at a 42% level, 43% level, not 50. The lawsuit said you can't do that. The lawsuit says you must fund at the state level at that 50%. What did that do? That now then gave, there was about 35 different schools that were really affected dramatically. Wilkes-Barre area, all our major school, Valley West, Scranton, they were, Hazelton, were affected dramatically. What did they end up having to do? They end up having to cut courses, eliminate staff. And once they won that case, they have now begun to regain that staff back. They are reintroducing many of the courses that they had to cut. This year now, the first year, last year, would have been $1.1 billion of money came back to this area, okay? Now we are fighting, I'm sorry, for the state. Now we're fighting for the $562 million that we're due this year. Those dollars now will provide those courses that maybe were eliminated before. But again, if the Fed's going to take their money out, where do we make up that difference? It's the same on every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of their lives, federal money comes in to support something, whether it's health, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's school district, whether it's municipalities. It's a balance, and they're throwing everything out of balance by cutting things without any kind of planning, without any kind of dissertation, so that you can make the changes that maybe are over budget, but not destroy programs and destroy people's lives. And that's the part that bothers me more than anything else. They don't feel our pain. They're so far removed from regular citizens, they can do whatever they want. It's that attitude. And that's why I'm saying all of us, in one way, shape, form, or another, have to play a role, standing up, just standing for the truth, being a lady, being a gentleman. But you know why we're standing up for the truth? Because of all of those people that came before us that fought and died so we are here. We have to continue to fight for this democracy, the freedom of speech, the right to vote, the Constitution. That's how we've become the wealthiest, most powerful nation in the world, because it gave all of us a chance to grow, all at different levels. And we've made this incredible country. We cannot let them destroy it.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to add something to that in terms of we have to have the fights, right? The political fights. We have to do that. But a lot of people here are angry and fired up. And when it comes to literacy and education, that's something we can do locally and just like help, right? Because there are schools that need adults to come in and read books with kids. And the key to like advancing your literacy is practicing reading and having someone show you how to sound out a word and developing a love of learning and a love of books. And all of us totally have the power to do that, right? We don't have the power to make Bresnahan listen to us. We don't have the power to make him sit in that chair. But we do have the power to call up a school near us, particularly one that we know has been systematically disadvantaged, and say, how can I help? Can I read to someone? Can I bring food or snacks? Is there a tutoring program where I could come and like do algebra with somebody? Algebra might be a stretch for me, but addition and subtraction with somebody, right? So that's a way that you can take this anger, this rightful anger, and direct it towards a local way that you can make a difference by helping a kid sound out some words in a book and let that sustain you for the bigger fights that are, harder.
Hello, my name is Caden Harris. I am a current student at Wilkes. I am a theater arts BA major. And I think I had you, Dr. Chamberlain, for a class before I left Wilkes for a little bit, so it's very nice to see you again. I, as a art major, have only recently gotten myself involved in politics because I kind of realized how important it is for our society to really understand what politics mean. And as you mentioned about educating ourselves, I have been reading a lot of literature specifically regarding authoritarianism and essentially fascism. And basically my question is, as a person who's now in politics and is now considering a minor in politics, how far the Trump administration will go to push this country to authoritarianism and fascism. I'd like to know that, to educate myself, what you guys think that Trump as a whole and with what he's doing, how far he may go. Could you answer that?
I'm a historian, so I don't predict the
yes,
future.
We love that.
I don't predict the future. I talk about the past. But there's some different ways that we could take this, right? He'll take it as far as the country allows him. And we've seen evidence that Congress is forfeiting many of its, all of its powers, and he is being allowed to dictate policy. And law is saying, we're clawing back this money that you previously appropriated. Congress, you're going to approve me clawing back this money, and they say, yes, sir. So, cause for thinking maybe he won't successfully consolidate power and become a kind of full-fledged dictator is he has worked to consolidate power very, very quickly and is hurting a lot of people who were crucial to his victory because rural hospitals are going to close and people are going to realize when their hospital isn't open anymore. And like no amount of Fox News is going to convince them that their hospital is still open if it is closed. So I think it's important to know that he does not care about his popularity, and his popularity is underwater. And that popularity has proven to be very malleable. You can look at his approval ratings on immigration and see that he has pushed so far so fast that many people have changed their minds and have decided that what they're seeing ICE do is unacceptable and can't be allowed. And that's one of the most authoritarian moves that have been made. So I think that's something to look at. Like, that's fragility. And he has a lot of power. He's being given a lot of power by people who could limit it. But there's cracks in that power, and it's a matter of like staying engaged and present right now and pressuring the people who we can to say, like, the constitutional crisis is not coming, it is here. And that's what we need to be addressing right now, is not thinking about, well, where is the line and when do things get serious, is that they're serious now. And to communicate that urgency to the people who maybe have a little bit more power or bigger megaphones than we do.
Thank you very much.
Just to add to that, I think what we have to think about now is we know we have a president who's interested in fascism. We know we have a president who's interested in concentrating his power as much as possible. What we can learn from the history in other countries where this has happened, right, is that we're already past that line, like Dr. Chamberlain said, right? But what we've seen is the more resistance we can put in place now, the more we can slow down the advancement, the more we can help people see as early and as quickly as possible what is happening. Hopefully that will lessen how far we slide, and we'll have less recovery in the future, because this is big, right? It's happening now, it's terrifying, it's happening in front of us. We can't stop resisting. We can't stop being clear, we can't stop educating, as scary as it is, because what we have seen in other countries is these kinds of regimes come and go. Sometimes you can stop them from getting further, from causing more harm. And it's about harm mitigation. It's about protecting each other as much as we can, protecting whatever safety nets we can protect, and continuing to try to keep pushing back and pushing forward as much as possible.
And thank you for being optimistic about that. Thank you very much.
I think I said this before, I think there's more good in this country than not. And I think it's pretty obvious he's not going to stop. He also has a plan with 2025. He's also surrounded himself with yes men and women so that they'll do exactly what he wants them to do, which is, I want to be king. I want to do whatever I want to do. And unfortunately, in every kind of conflict, there is a price to pay. And that price will be how many of us have to go into that battle and make sure we do whatever is necessary to turn it around. But one thing is for sure, he will not stop unless we stand up. He will not stop unless we stand up. And when I say we stand up, we're standing up for the rule of law. We're standing up to do things the right way. We're standing up for what's best. We're standing up for balance, not ruthlessness, not cruelty. So, as I said to you before, there's more good than not. It's going to be up to all of us. And what I would say to all of you, find a friend who believes now, who understands the importance of standing up. And then now you have 2. And then you 2 find 2 more, and now you have 4. And then you have 8. And then you have 16. Then you have 32. It's going to take all of us to find those people that will stand up for the good, for the right, for the just. And never forget all of those who gave their lives so we could be free today. We can't let this happen. We can't let them ruin everything that's been done, including our incredible thought throughout the world. The world looked at us as a free country. Look at how great everything is in America. They've got money, they've got this, they have all of that. How did they do that? Democracy. Why do they want to come here? Because democracy gives us a chance to become a success, a chance to become whoever we want. Can we do it? Can we do it? We have to. We have to. Thank you so very much. You're all beautiful. God bless America.